Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back at ECCMID Live TV. I'm very happy to announce that I have another live guest in our studio here with me. In this case, this is Professor Alexander Friedrich, who is a professor of medical microbiology in the University Medical Center in Groningen in the Netherlands, but also a very esteemed member of ESCCMID, as he is serving on the executive committee of ESCCMID. But also, in addition to that, he is the clinical director of EUCIC, the European Committee for Infection Prevention and Control. And this is a very nice opportunity to maybe dive a little deeper on the activities that EUCIC undertakes in their mission status. So I would really like to welcome Professor Friedrich here with us.
Good to be
Glad
here.
to have you.
Hello.
And well, let's just get started talking on EUCIC, because you have educational activities, you have research activities, guideline development.
Yes.
Where shall we start? Shall we start with the educational?
So yes, I think it's important to first of all introduce EUCIC to a broader audience.
Absolutely.
It's one of the committees of ESCMID next to EUCAST that is well known, and there is a second for infection control, which is EUCIC, so the European Committee on Infection Control, where it is a cross-sectional activity that is chaired by Evelina Tacconelli in Verona. There's Nico Mutters and me that we are heading it together with many colleagues all over Europe, where we have an educational master program of 2 years, and we have research. So to talk about the master, this is a special ECCMID for us this year, because it's the first time that the first cohort of a master of about more than 30 students graduated for the first time. They lost a year. I told them it was the practicals due to the pandemic. It was supposed to be last year, but it didn't went out.
So you delivered your first cohort.
Yes, the first cohort of the next generation of infection control colleagues, clinical microbiologists, infectious disease, infection control, and also pharmacology. So the professions that we have in ESCMID, that as an extra training went through this EUCIC training. How does it work? So there are 10 modules. There is a basic module, which is done in Groningen of a week, and then people have 5 compulsory courses that they follow all over Europe, organized by colleagues, esteemed colleagues all over Europe with special expertise on technical infection control, on epidemiology, on typing in use for infection control.
Is it like an observership?
That's really courses, capacity building courses, where all the different EUCIC attendees go and the students go, and then they learn there, and then they several specific topic which this center in Europe is known as expert for. They meet each other and they build a network, and they meet the experts that are there, because at every location where a compulsory course is, also experts from other parts of Europe come. So there's a continuous exchange. And then there are many local courses, we call them, that are given by or organized by colleagues around Europe on many different topics. Antimicrobial stewardship also for infection control, but also hand hygiene, or communication infection control, very important. Different other things, and there you can choose. So the EUCIC students, they choose which one they want, so they make their own curriculum, and then at the end they have an exam, and this was this week. This week was the exam, and it was a hard exam, but at the end people made it, and we had the graduation ceremony yesterday, and very happy faces and
did you have a live graduation ceremony?
No, it was possible. It was online, but we did a special thing. So we had we sent to everybody who was attending a surprise package at home all over Europe, and they had to have there was something to drink in and something to eat, and then you were there and had this feeling of and the people were dressed in an elegant way.
Oh well, that's a lovely way to celebrate.
Yes,
next best thing.
And real infection control ceremony in a pandemic. But so this is and now, of course, the next cohort will start. It will not be this year; it will be next year due to the pandemic situation. Because the first course, the basic course, needs really to be on site. It's very practical. It's very important that you meet there. So when the situation will improve, but
are there a lot of people who register for this?
Yeah, it's already full. So you cannot register anymore. It's already full. So we would need another basic course. So many requests, and what you see is that. So there's of course the infection control, a topic in itself with all the different nuances and facets. But then there are two major or basic things that we look at, and one is the European competence that we main and we target on, the European competence and the meta competence. So what is that? European competence means that there is not one correct way of dealing with infection control. There are different ways because in Europe we are so diverse. We have different situations in healthcare, different socio-economic situations and cultures. So there's not one way. If you think everybody should do as you do in your country, I think you should do the course because there are different ways that lead to Rome, and you can only learn from each other. If you come and say, so how are you doing it? Oh, that's interesting. And so you learn from each other, and you learn the strengths and weaknesses of different approaches. But it makes you, on a European scale, competent, because if you know in the Netherlands how to control antibiotic resistance, it's very good. But go and work somewhere else, and it will not work, not because of your knowledge, because of the context. So this is important. And all different contexts are valuable and are a gift to Europe, and we can learn from each other. And that is the European part. And the other part is the meta competence. What does that mean? That means it's the same, but not between countries and cultures, but between professions, because infection prevention and control is a multidisciplinary activity. You need ID, you need CM, you need infection control nurses, you need quality people, you need pharmacologists, you need the clinicians, you need so many, the lab. So also there, you need to become a mosaic stone of the whole mosaic. And that needs a special attitude to give value to the other way of thinking, to the other approach to the same reality. And that's not what you learn really when you are trained as a medical specialist. You are trained in that what you know. And you go for it. It's like, but then you have to learn for humbleness to say what I know is of course important, but it's only part of the reality. So this is what you also are trained in the EUCIC course, the humbleness of being a mosaic stone in the infection prevention control activity. So these two issues, and it's inspiring for everybody who's there, because the students bring their own views, and we as lecturers we have our ideas, but then we are surprised by the new ideas, and then they immediately, you see this young generation, they immediately connect with each other, and they create a group. And then they have a question, and then you see that they solve the question in a kind of swarm activity. Oh, I have here an outbreak of whatever, and then another, oh, I had that too. So you see that something happens. It has an own dynamic. So I get positive energy out of that, because they get their own solutions, and there they generate, at the end, they generate research questions that are relevant. Because we need an infection...
To a larger group, probably.
Yes, because we need in infection prevention control answers to questions that are relevant. And so you generate them from the daily business of infection prevention control. You see the problem and you say, what is that? And then you start up with a group, and now with a pan-European group of young people. And this is another part of EUCIC, which is mainly organized and really brought to the activity of research. Questions on antibiotic resistance, carbapenem resistance, and infections due to carbapenem resistant and enteroperacea, and also healthcare associated infections in itself. And their research questions are answered within that. And then there's guidelines also in activity, but then there's an interaction to the guidelines committees that exist also within ESCMID, because we need also to interact within the different committees within ESCMID.
Yeah, and collaborate. Yeah. So would you say that on all these activities, you really the main strength is really the network that EUCIC offers?
It's a network of a new generation of colleagues.
Yeah.
Because
but with the expertise from the older generations,
yes,
right?
Of course. But yes, of course.
And the experience.
That's true. Yeah. But they bring it to a new level, because the infection prevention control is not existing in many countries. It's done in every country by a different profession. And there it's brought together, because we collaborate as ESCMID in EUCIC here with institutions like the ECDC, like the WHO. We collaborate with the UMS, which is the medical specialist organization of the clinical microbiologists and the infectious disease. There has been created a multidisciplinary joint committee of the UMS on infection control. So this all brought it not only on a higher level of quality, but also that infection prevention control gets a kind of visibility, that people, you start in your country and you do what you like to do. You want to be an ID, you want to be a CMA, but then once you have achieved that, then you go on a European level on the infection prevention control. And I believe with the pandemic, we don't need to convince anybody to explain why it is important. It's system relevant to have international infection prevention control.
Yeah.
Not only in hospitals, in the community, in public health. So we need it everywhere. And we will never, from my point of view, go back at the level how it was before the pandemic. Biosecurity and infection control is biosecurity, will be a system relevant issue. So we need a kind of, for our continent, Europe, homeland security, but homeland biosecurity organization, which is developed now by the Commission and by the member states, with the initiative of HERA, the Preparedness and Emergency Agency. But there you see, all these ideas cannot fly if you don't have all the expertise everywhere, and that they understand that for an infectious disease like this virus that we see now in the pandemic, there are no borders. There are no different countries. No. The waves just go over the continent.
Yeah.
But what are we doing? Every country is responding on itself.
It's trying to micromanage their own.
It doesn't work. The continent has the critical mass of prevention. But we are not mature enough as a continent. We are not mature enough still. We are still thinking in member states. It's normal, but I think that we learn now. And these young colleagues, they are the first ones, in my view, that really get this spirit. We cannot solve it on our own.
Yeah.
And they will reach out to that.
Yeah. Well, maybe they did the master education at exactly the right time.
Yes,
so it's not a year lost, but actually many years won
that's true.
Due to the pandemic.
And they will inspire again next people, and they will tell it to others. And I think the basic principle in that is EUCIC brought the network and the visibility and the quality and brought the different excellence that we have in colleagues together. But in the end, it was not aimed to invent all new. Europe has so many things to offer for infection prevention control. So many colleagues that in the different countries and different parts of Europe are doing excellent work. But to bring that together and of course to make out of it a curriculum, which then gives also the credit points for the education, etc. It's a lot of work that has been done by so many people, and I'm so grateful to all the people that worked, because it's just next to their daily work. They invested their work time and their hearts into EUCIC and the education and the research activities. But you see that everybody feels that, because it's that everybody in Europe has a gift, a particular way how to deal with infection prevention control. And if you listen to that, say, oh wow, look how the Dutch do, look how the Italians do, oh wow, look how the Greeks do. And there you change, because often in Europe we are like, oh look, they do different.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh wow, look.
Like a little bit of a negative connotation to it.
Because you think if it is like you do, it's normal, and other is different.
Yeah.
It's normal, we are all human beings, but in the European competence, you learn to get the attitude of, wow, this is particularly interesting how the others do. I would like to learn more about it.
Yeah.
And there you start a dialogue between countries, between cultures, between the differences that exist also with respect to phenomena like antibiotic resistance, which is different in Europe. Many people think, oh, very easy. If you just disinfect your hands and you do not prescribe so many antibiotics, you do some screening, the thing is solved. So look at the ones who have no problem, like the Dutch or the Swedish, and then just do it the same way.
Yeah.
To tell you the truth, it will not work. It's just not true. It's not possible, because it is not that Dutch prescribe less antibiotics. They prescribe less pharmaceuticals. And with less pharmaceuticals, also less antibiotics, because they have a totally different, in the Netherlands, we have a totally different healthcare system.
Yeah.
So, of course, it helps. But on the other side, that means that what is the essence? The essence is to be well informed, to know how can I bring that into another system where you have much more infrastructure, where you will have more patients, more prescribing, and still you want to avoid selection for antibiotic resistance. But you cannot just copy-paste.
No, so I can imagine it's more of an ongoing process as well, that you don't teach the EUCID master students just one thing and teach them how to think in a European competent way, but it's an ongoing thing, right? Yeah. And do you think the ECCMID 2021 is a good platform also to exchange and learn from each other?
Yeah, I think that with more than 9,000 people that are registered, and they are in the different sessions, and we have of course also EUCIC organized and EUCIC co-organized sessions. And by the way, tomorrow there will be a very interesting session. I can only recommend to you. It's on. It's not tomorrow. It's on Monday. On Monday at 10:45, it's an educational workshop, and it's the evolving landscape of healthcare-associated infections, recent advances in prevention, and you will meet there experts that are in EUCIC involved, and there will be different very important topics on that. So it's my personal recommendation. Go, of course, to all sessions, but don't miss the EUCIC session.
Don't miss that one. Well, I think our viewers heard that pretty well. It was Monday, 10:45, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Well, great. Are there any other personal interesting sessions that for you personally that you're particularly looking forward to? Or?
Yes, I was in the Trainees Association session, the TAE, where there was a breakout sessions with young colleagues from all over the world for their career. And I really like that, because they have the same questions I had in my career 20 years ago, and the doubts and how will it go, and there to tell them, don't worry, I had the same questions, and then give them some advice, and so this is what I liked, and then of course also scientifically I went to different sessions to see what is new. So there was one session on CRISPR-Cas,
yes,
and I was privileged to chair this session yesterday. And this was really innovative on the next level. So what is possible out of this technological change gives us new insights into well-known questions. So I always say clinical microbiologists, they answer always the same questions in every generation with new technology.
Yeah.
But they always get also new answers, and that was really impressive. What will now be possible, and then I will be scanning through the program, see and get inspired of different ideas and different views. And of course, one important thing, I have a list of all my members of my department that are presenting.
Okay.
And they never have the chance to tell me the things in our department because I'm so busy. But here I have the chance to listen to them, maybe ask a question, and to see what they're doing. Even for that, ECCMID is great. And I can see my own people for a whole hour or half an hour.
And it gets even better because it's online.
Yes.
You can even watch it on demand if
That's
you
it.
just don't have the time to check in.
And I'm so proud
so
of
that
what
the
they're
same
doing.
applies for the session that you just mentioned on CRISPR-Cas,
Yes.
which was also, I think, selected by Jacob Morangalad as a highlight on the program yesterday. So for our viewers who missed it and are really thinking we missed out on something, you can look it up on demand. It was yesterday. I'm not sure in the morning or afternoon, but look up CRISPR-Cas and you'll be sure to find it. I would like to thank you so much for taking the time to come and sit here live with me in the studio and give us a really great insight in the strengths and the value of EUCIC in improving infection prevention and control on an international level. So thank you for taking the time. We will be back on the whole hour again, which is at 2 o'clock with Professor Margreet Vos, who will be speaking about the study group ESGNI on nosocomial infections. So make sure to tune in again at 2. See you then.
Thank you.